Hey, it's Mark Ferguson with Invest for More, and we're outside a house flip that's finished for sale, and now it's under contract to sell. So I waited to do this video until a little later so I could talk about how we sell the properties, how fast it would go under contract, and how that process works. So we're going to show you the house. We'll also show you what the house looked like beforehand, and then we will talk about lots and lots of different things regarding the selling process on this property. Now, first off, we bought this as a wholesale deal for $270,000. We listed it for $399,000. We did quite a bit of work inside, but it really was a pretty easy flip. Now, this is what it looked like when we first bought it. That's actually not the house. That's the house next door. When I first pulled up to this property, I kind of thought that was it, but it wasn't. It's this one, which actually looked pretty good from the outside. But I'm showing this because we had a lot of showings. We probably had 10, maybe 12 showings on this property, and none of the buyers liked it. And the biggest complaint we had was the neighborhood. They said they didn't like the neighborhood. And so I'm a real estate agent, a real estate broker, and it's very tricky talking about neighborhoods, schools, crime rates, things like that as an agent. That's money I found in this house after we first bought it. So real quick, I want to talk about that. If you're working with an agent and you say, hey, is this a good neighborhood? They shouldn't tell you. It's actually against the law for an agent to say this is a good neighborhood, this is a bad neighborhood, crime's high here, crime's low, schools are good, schools are bad, because it's very subjective data based on the own agent's perspective in life. And it's not the same for everyone. So as an agent, if people ask us questions like that, if someone says, hey, Mark, is this a good neighborhood? I can't say yes. It's up to the buyer to figure out what a good neighborhood is to them. And I can guide them in certain directions, help them figure that out for themselves, but I can't tell them what a good neighborhood is for them. So if they say, hey, is there high crime here? I can't say yes, I can't say no, but I can say, hey, you can call the police station, you can ask them. A lot of times the police make every neighborhood seem really bad, though, as far as crime. So, you have to take that with a grain of salt, maybe warn the buyers about that too. But you can guide them to online sources, say, hey, here are different crime ratings for different cities and towns. Maybe there's not neighborhood information, but here's some sources. For schools, here's some school ratings online that you might be able to check out. But we can't interpret those and tell them what's good or bad. So for me to tell you this neighborhood is bad or good right now in this video isn't really possible. It puts me in kind of a tricky situation. But I would say the first house I ever bought was maybe maybe half a mile away from here, I'd say. And this property is maybe a mile from my laundromat. As an investor, I have no problem buying properties here. Again, it's tricky for me to say, but let's say I was surprised that people thought the neighborhood wasn't nice. Now, the one thing I can say is that the houses around this particular property aren't well kept. There's, some old cars, trash in the yard. Some of the yards aren't well maintained. So it might have been that it wasn't the neighborhood exactly that was a problem. It's just this particular street or this particular part of this street where some of the houses aren't very nice. And I mentioned that in my first video too. Hopefully that doesn't turn off buyers, but that is something to consider when you're buying properties for yourself or buying them as an investment. What do the surrounding houses look like? What do the neighbors' houses look like? Because that can be a turnoff to buyers. So you're seeing what the house looked like beforehand. This is not the after video, don't worry. We did it. It looks a little nicer than this now. And so we went through, 10 showings. We're kind of thinking, wow, this feedback is surprising. We tried to price this home very competitively. And, we got a couple agents in our office. They were surprised it wasn't selling right away because they've looked at different properties in the area in this price range and thought it was one of the nicer ones. Again, not how it looks in this video right now, but when we'll show you later. And then it was 11 days after it had been on the market, we got a really, really good offer. So I don't want to disclose what the price was or how much it was until it sells. I know some people do that. I don't think you should do that because it hasn't gone through yet, but it's a good offer. We accepted it. The property's now under contract. Now, once it goes under contract, basically what that means is, they have an agent who's representing them. An agent in my office lists the property for me, and they send us an offer. We review it. It's like 18 pages of random legal jargon and different items in there. If we accept it, we can sign it, and the property is now under contract or in escrow, depending on what part of the country you're in. So when that happens, no other buyers can make an offer. They can't come along and say, oh, we're going to pay more. The only way some other buyer can get an offer accepted is if this contract falls apart. If they go past, their closing date and don't extend it, or if they decide to cancel it for inspection, loan conditions, something like that, and the house comes back on the market, then new buyers can put an offer in, maybe get the property. So speaking from an investor standpoint and listing properties, it's almost always better to try and make the first offer work. So we have quite a few properties where, an offer comes in, we accept it, they get through inspection, and they cancel. And a lot of times it's just silly things. Maybe they found another house and they're using their inspection as an excuse, or their financing falls through. But whenever you have a house that is under contract and comes back on the market, they just tend to sell for less than when they go under contract with the first offer. So for whatever reason, we like to try and make that first offer work. And I think a lot of it too comes with flips in that, they look really nice, new paint, new flooring, new kitchen. We try to fix all the safety items. We try and fix as much as we can. But these are still old houses, right? This is still a 40, 50-year-old house. It's not going to be brand new. It's not going to be 100% perfect. But I think sometimes buyers come into buying a flip and they think everything's going to be perfect. There's not going to be anything wrong with it. And if they find a few things wrong on the inspection, they freak out, they cancel. And even if we're willing to fix them and take care of some of those things, I think that's more apt to happen on a flip than a regular home because they just perceive it as being perfect and not needing any repairs. The real estate market is also going back to a much more normal market than it has been the last few years. So if you followed my channel, if you've seen news in the real estate at all, you realize a lot of houses go on the market, sell right away. They have multiple offers coming in. They're selling for over list price. Houses selling in less than a day. That's not a normal market, right? That's from a very restrictive supply standpoint. And we're coming back to a normal market. And what I've always found, before COVID and, flipping houses for many years before that, when we list properties and they're priced right, they usually sell or go under contract. When I say sell, I mean go under contract in about 2 to 3 weeks. So they usually don't go under contract right away. Sometimes they do, but not always. And you've got to be a little bit patient with them. You can't just expect them to sell right away, even though we're used to that in 2022, 2021. And you've got to be patient, wait for the buyers. And then if we don't have an offer in, 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, then we look at lowering the price, dropping the price, because with these flips, we have lots of carrying costs, financing costs, insurance, taxes, utilities, maintenance. If it snows, we have to go remove the snow. It's in the summer, or we're mowing the yards, things like that. And so the longer we hold them, the less money we make. So we don't want to hold properties forever. We want to keep our money moving, and we don't want them to sit around. So if you're an owner-occupant selling your house and you're not in a hurry to move, maybe it's not as big of a deal as it would be to us. So we have another property listed, kind of the country flip, if you remember that one. That one is not under contract yet. It was listed a little bit before this one. So we're coming up on 3 weeks on that one, and we'll see what happens kind of in the 3 to 4 week range. If we don't get an offer on that one, we might lower the price at that point because that one has a whole lot of money tied up in it. That was one we paid $375 for, and it's listed for $699. It was a more involved rehab, a bigger house with a couple of acres, but we definitely want to get that one sold as well. Now, I also talk about who I sell properties to, and there's a lot of hubbub in the market now about investors ruining the housing market and all of that. With our flips, this is what the house looks like afterwards, by the way, if you couldn't tell. With our flips, we're actually adding inventory. We're actually helping the housing market in a lot of these, and we can't list the property for more than what the neighborhood comps sell for. So I think some people, is a crazy car there too. Sorry, that's a right-hand drive Chevrolet. Not sure what it was in the neighbor's yard today. That got my attention. But, some people have this misconception with flips that, hey, we buy a house, we pay more money than anybody else will, we fix it up, and then we list it for $100,000 more than the neighborhood. We would never sell houses doing that. We would go bankrupt doing that. It would never appraise. It just doesn't work that way. What we do is we look at these comps and houses and say, okay, this house is probably worth about $400,000 once we fix it up. That means we've got to subtract repairs, financing costs, selling costs, commissions, maintenance, insurance, taxes, all that stuff, then leave ourselves room for profit, and then make an offer this much, much, much lower than what market value is. So we're really not raising prices any. We're just actually adding inventory because this house was a rental. It was rented before we bought it. We bought it. The renters were already gone, and now we're turning it into a house for owner-occupants. A lot of the houses we buy aren't livable. They need a ton of work. Owner-occupants can't buy them or don't want to buy them most of the time. And almost all of the houses we sell are sold to owner-occupants. I can remember one house in my 20 plus years of doing this that we sold to a hedge fund, because that's in the news too. And that was a couple of years ago, a hedge fund out of Israel, actually. And there's this, hedge funds are buying all the properties, are ruining the market. Well, actually, hedge funds own less than 1% of all houses. And overall, investors have been selling more houses than buying since 2016. So if you look at the numbers, investors are not ruining the market. They're actually selling way more houses than they're buying. And with flips, we're actually adding properties and making the market even better. So I know some people don't believe me, but that's how I look at it. Now with this property, I'm just telling you all of this story because we're selling it to an investor, and that's very, very rare for us to do. I don't discriminate against investors versus owner-occupants. I don't say I'm only going to sell to an owner-occupant. We let whoever wants to make the best offer make the best offer, and if they buy the property, they can buy the property. So the owner-occupants had 10 days to look at this property, make offers. Nobody wanted it, but an investor came along, and they decided they did want it. And like I said, it hasn't sold yet. They still have their inspection, loan conditions, things like that. But we will see how that all goes. Now, I know I'm also in the minority when I say this too, but I think corporate investors are actually a good thing for the housing market right now because, like I said, there's fewer single-family rentals now than 2016. There are 15.2 million single-family rentals in 2016. Now there's 14 million. So there aren't enough single-family rentals. And during that same time period, there have been 10 million more owner-occupied single-family properties. So people are buying houses, investors are selling them, and that's leaving a massive shortage in rentals, and that's what's pushing prices up. And I know some people say, well, single-family homes shouldn't be rentals. They should only be for owner-occupants. Well, that's very discriminatory because a much higher percent of renters are actually minorities. There's a lot of different reasons for that, but those are the facts. And so if you're saying only owner-occupants can have houses, that means you're pushing out renters out of houses into apartments who might be a bigger portion minorities, which is not a good thing. I know some HOAs want to ban rentals. That would be very discriminatory. So I am not a fan of that. And we need more rental properties, as I said. We need more houses in general. And a lot of these big corporate landlords are building houses right now. Yes, they're building them to rent, but we still need those rentals. Any inventory we add will help the housing market, help balance it out. So I am fine with them building properties. They are not buying all the properties. They are not taking away all the opportunities. It is something our housing market needs. So we have a big housing shortage. We need to build more. That's what's going to get us out of it, not banning people from buying houses, because people are going to live somewhere, and that's not going to solve that problem. So I will get off my soapbox now. Sorry, that went into all kind of weird tangents I wasn't expecting, but the house is done. It's under contract. Hopefully it closes without any hiccups. If not, we'll put it back on the market. But like I said, we try to avoid that. We have other flips that'll be done here very soon. Our townhouse flip is almost done. We've got some other flips we're working on as well. We've got the skate park flip we're going to be working on really soon. And I'm always looking to buy more. Plus, we've got our rentals, laundromats, other things going on too. So let me know what you think of this house. I'll probably give you some more insider information on my membership channel as well on this one, and some insights onto my thoughts about it being a rental property too. But those are some things that I don't want to share publicly at this time. All right, thanks for watching. We'll be back soon with many more videos.